Jonathan Hickman, one of the most prestigious comic writers of the modern age. When talking Marvel Comics, he is hands down one of the most impactful writers in the last 10-15 years. So much so that a lot of his influence has gone into the fan favorite MCU films, all leading to Marvel's next big, massive end of Saga, Secret Wars. That's because before the MCU was fully fleshed out to what it was, Jonathan Hickman was doing his own cinematic saga. And recently I read the Jonathan Hickman saga, or what I'm calling the Jonathan Hickman experience. So I wanted to share my thoughts with you guys in this kind of reading vlog style. Technically, there is more to the Jonathan Hickman reading order, the Hickman experience. I technically should have started with the Secret Warriors omnibus. It's not so much that I don't want to, I just never got around to it. But let's start at the beginning with none other than Marvel's first family. Starting with Omni Volume 1, what Hickman is mainly doing in this book is setting the seeds for what eventually would lead to a bunch of payout in Volume 2, and in general, the rest of his saga leading into Secret Wars. And so because there's a lot of seeding through this Omni, it can feel at times that the pacing is kind of all over the place. And I'm gonna be honest, the first time reading this omnibus, I got super frustrated, especially because this Omni starts off very straightforward and very strong. You've got Reed Richards. He is trying to solve everything. Literally, Reed Richards wants to fix everything. With this machine that he built, the bridge, it allows him to travel to different multiverses and see how other worlds, other Marvel worlds, dealt with certain events like Civil War or Secret Invasion. And Reed is observing, he's trying to like see what's going on, and just that overall premise is so intriguing to me. It fits the character of Reed Richards so well. I honestly feel like it kind of takes him one step further. Granted, I haven't read a lot of Fantastic Four. I've mainly read the Lee and Kirby stuff. This Mr. Fantastic is probably the most curious, most intelligent we've ever seen him. Along with that, you get the Council of Reeds, so it's a bunch of other Reed Richards from the multiverse that again feel the same way that 616 Reed feels, and so they've formed this council to try to solve everything. We get some stuff with the Inhumans, the Shi'ar Empire is involved. There's a new race of Atlanteans that come into place, and of course this is all through the Fantastic Four. It's all connected to them. So again, it feels like a lot, but the payoff towards the end of this Omni, and especially the beginning and rest of Omni 2, is just so great. Along with Reed though, the rest of the family is also written very well. I love the character growth in Johnny Storm, a character that has existed at this point for like nearly 60 years, right? And he has a moment in this book that is such a big step forward. It's something that just really makes me respect the character even more. Got some great moments with the Thing, and of course Sue Storm feels like another powerful front carrying character. We've also got the kids, Valeria and Franklin Richards, who we get to see their future versions and how powerful and important they become to the Marvel Universe. You get the Future Foundation starting in here, which is kind of like a little school started by Reed Richards. Overall, Omni Volume 1 gets a 4 out of 5 stars from me. I really enjoy it, and I think it's a great start to what Hickman will eventually lead to, not just in the Fantastic Four, but overall in his big Marvel plan. Going to Volume 2, this is the payoff. This is where we get a lot more action, a lot more movement going forward. So the pacing definitely feels a lot better in this one. You get more insight into what's going on with the future Franklin and Valeria, as well as Reed's dad. Future Foundation expands, so you get Peter Parker, Spider-Man involved. He is now a member of the Fantastic Four, and that's really cool because Spider-Man's always had that straight connection with the FF. You get some really interesting stuff with Doctor Doom, which you did get in Volume 1 as well, I forgot to mention, but just overall some really amazing things happen in Volume 2. Volume 2 is a 4 to a 4.5 for me. I think there's still some, Hickman kind of craziness going on that makes it a little frustrating to read at times, but overall the payoff is here. I really enjoy it. I enjoy it a little bit more than Volume 1, but you can't have one without the other, obviously. When you read this Fantastic Four one, you really got to read it from beginning to end. But now let's talk about my least favorite read throughout this whole Hickman experience. Ultimate Marvel by Jonathan Hickman. The only thing I would say that is important to take away from this is the creation and the debut of the Maker. The evil version of Reed Richards, the 1610, the ultimate version of Reed Richards, gone mad, gone crazy, gone bad, you know, losing his team, his wife, like everything's gone bad for him, and so he turns into a bad guy. That I think is super dope. I think the concept of an evil Reed Richards, there's no better superhero to turn into a bad guy. Reed's kind of got that whole selfishness about him, you know, thinking that he's doing what's best for everybody, even if it means it comes at the cost of certain things and certain morals. It just makes sense. It's perfect. But there's a lot of inconsistencies in this Omni. Too much going on, not enough payoff. Hickman will do something massive, like crazy cliffhanger issue, and then boom, it's a time jump. So then it doesn't matter anymore. Everybody's had time to grieve, but we didn't get to see it, etc., etc. I don't like that type of writing, so this falls short for me. Overall, I give this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Now it's time for the good stuff, the main course, the main meal. We're talking Avengers by Jonathan Hickman. Holy cow. This shows us the Avengers taking it to the next level because the threats are next level. We get the introduction of incursions, which are basically two worlds colliding, and unless one world is destroyed before the other, they both just destroy each other. And that's because the multiverse is ending. It's dying. It's all dying. Worlds are clashing, and eventually it's gonna come down to one or none. And so with that, Hickman reintroduces the Illuminati, which Bendis introduced in his run with the Avengers. But what Hickman does with his Illuminati, is just so great. I'm talking pages upon pages of just them having conversation about what they need to do, the greater good, how to protect their world. And I'm gonna tell you, man, that is Hickman at his best. That kind of like political setting where it's just like people sitting around a table and they're talking about what needs to be done. It's so demanding of your attention. So with New Avengers and Avengers, you're kind of bouncing back between the Illuminati and then the Avengers, but the Avengers being on a more massive scope. The original plan with Cap and Iron Man is that the Avengers have to really buckle up for what is going to happen. There's bigger threats out in the universe, so they need to set themselves up for success. They need to make it an Avengers world. And so it's cool because there's a recruiting process. We get to see members that aren't typically Avengers, or at this point weren't ever Avengers. They're now on the Avengers team. It's really cool to get a wider, more diverse cast of characters, while the New Avengers with the Illuminati are kind of dealing with the incursions that nobody knows about, by the way. You've got the regular Avengers just handling the actual crazy threats that are going on. Similar to Fantastic Four, where there was just a bunch of things being added. Same thing happens here. You get the Infinity event with Thanos in this omnibus, and that is super badass. You get the Black Order, also Black Priests and map makers, which are people that are involved with the incursions somehow, and it's just another threat that the Illuminati has to face when they're trying to stop incursions. It's just another factor that makes the stakes even higher. Besides a couple of pacing things again with Hickman, just personally, I have this at a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I think, again, Hickman is really getting to his point. The incursions is a really big thing that he's introducing. Volume 2 is everything I just said about Volume 1. Turn it up to 11, baby. That's kind of the point of this Avengers run, is everything dies. There's nothing that we can do about it. There's nothing we can do to stop that. However, again, with the mission of the Avengers world and the Illuminati, what they are going to stop is the unnatural process of everything dying. Basically, everything's going to die, and that's fine. We should accept that. But our death should not be accelerated. It should die when it needs to die, and something is accelerating this with the multiverse failing and dying. One thing I really enjoyed about the second half is the Captain America involvement. You basically get a whole Cap story arc, and a lot of that is because Cap starts to remember what happened with the Illuminati. He remembers being kicked out. He remembers getting his brain washed, and he's pissed. Through that, you get kind of a mini civil war in this second volume because Cap and Iron Man are just at odds because now the secret's out. The Illuminati aren't the only people that know about the incursions, and that adds so much more drama and suspense to this world. You do get some time jumps, but Hickman does it right this time, in my opinion. I think it's to serve the fact that the Marvel universe is still moving, you know, aside with Hickman. So there's things that are tied with like Superior Iron Man. Steve Rogers is an old man, you know, whatever happened with that and him losing the soldier serum. It's still really well paced here. And again, I think Hickman executes and directs that well enough. You also get Doom a lot more involved because again, this is going to lead to Secret Wars where Doom is the big baddie. This is Hickman at his best. He's doing everything that he wants to do, where it's, you know, conversational, narration, information being distributed. It's also action-packed. It's a little bit more straightforward while still being complex in everything that he's doing. Hickman's not handing you anything here, but he's just making it so good that if you're not getting all the stuff that's happening and you just see the Avengers fighting, then I'm sorry, brother. You're not reading this right. You're not understanding it, and therefore you can't really enjoy it the way you should. This second Omni is a 5 out of 5 for me. This is a perfect read overall. I would reread this at any time. But again, like Fantastic Four, one is not without the other. Although I will say with Avengers, I don't know, something in me personally says if you only read volume 2, you could do it. You could do it. There's a couple things that definitely, you know, you would need to be filled in on, but hell, I could definitely see myself just being like, I just kind of want to read the climax of everything, right? I just want to get to the actual like sirloin, $50 steak and you know, whatever, and that is reading volume 2. I could definitely see myself doing it, but do yourself the ultimate favor and read both. But now it's time for the finale. Simply said, Secret Wars, the main event. I'm not going to be talking about the Battle World stuff, but everything that Hickman has built to, the main event, in my opinion, is perfect. I didn't mention this, but long story short, at the end of Omnibus Volume 2, you get the last 2 Earths in the multiverse because it's been ramped up so high, you know, with the incursions. And the last 2 are Earth 616 and Earth 1610. You get this amazing kind of battle scene setup, but ultimately they're going to destroy each other and the multiverse is going to be over with. But not if Dr. Doom has anything to say about it. Dr. Doom, with Molecule Man, gets the powers of the Beyonders, and he creates his own universe. He saves the universe, basically, and he becomes a god in his own battle world. And oh my god, it's so perfect for the character of Doom. I don't think there's any better character for that. And along with that, you get this interesting kind of mythological setting that, again, it fits the vibe of Doom. And he rules it in a way that, you know, a god would. He's not just out here full on evil. And that's because we know Doom is way more complicated than to just be a villain. But there's really great concepts introduced. You've got the Thor core. You've got all the different regions. And I've always wondered, like, why did they re-go with the Secret Wars title? And the reason is because Hickman is definitely paying some sort of homage to that. Because what you end up having is 2 separate survivors from the battle, you know, with the 2 Earths. You have what you could say is Reed Richards' team with that cast of characters, and then due to some things with Namor and again Betrayal, Twist, you've got the team of Thanos and the Maker, and they're like the bad guys, right? So it's like how the heroes got transported to Battle World in the original Secret Wars, as well as the villains. Like, that's what you've got going on. But you've kind of just got them figuring out what's going on in this Battle World, and looking at all the different regions, and there's things going on like Maximus, Black Bolt's brother. He kind of starts up this like cult and revolt against Doctor Doom. Of course, one of the most badass comic moments of all time. You've got Thanos facing up to Doom and not really turning out too great. But in only about 10 issues, Hickman does a lot, in my opinion. I think we get to see a great amount of the world. Yeah, there's a lot of questions, but again, that's where the tie-ins come in. But even without the tie-ins, it's like, it's cool to have this massive world that you don't know that much about. Really well paced, perfectly placed, in my opinion. And the ending was also fantastic, no pun intended. Reed Richards coming out, and what does he do? Well, in this case, technically, he fixes everything, and it is super badass. And again, a great callback to the beginning of this amazing saga that Hickman had started. To me, Secret Wars is a 5 out of 5. It's one of my favorite Marvel comics now. I love everything about it, and I think everybody should experience it the full way that Hickman wants you to. And that is my thoughts on the Hickman experience. Let me know what you guys think. Are you fans of the Secret Wars of Jonathan Hickman? Have you read any of the stuff? But thanks so much for watching. Subscribe for more.